Let's now turn back to Taiwan. I spoke earlier to Wang Dingyu, legislator from the ruling DPP, on U.S.-wide bipartisan consensus when it comes to the threat that China poses. Wang is also on the legislature's Foreign and National Defense Committee.
They want to establish their own norm. They don't follow international regulation. They steal technology. They using spy. They using hybrid warfare. Sometimes even using disinformation to harass or try to interfere democracy's process. So what I observe here is all the leaders in Democrats and also in Republicans, they all notice this and they put this on very priority in their list, to deal with. And Taiwan is a little bit off hook from that. In the past, Taiwan issue and the Chinese issue always linked together. But now Taiwan is some kind, I have to say it's a good development. The United States start to think Taiwan's role in global politics and Taiwan's important role in supply chain is reliable and crucial.
Let's also hear from Victor Chen, KMT U.S. representative, Taiwan's largest opposition party. Chen spoke to me about what it takes to deter China and where Taiwan is at when it comes to that.
The military intimidation from mainland China has increased. We see the encirclement of warplanes, even warships around Taiwan waters. That's really destabilizing the region. And I think in that regard, we have a very deep conversation with decision makers in Washington, D.C. I think you have to be across the board increase of our defense capabilities. Yes, we need to buy hardwares from the United States to increase our military equipment. But on the other hand, on the software side, what I mean is that the training and the joint exercises, cooperation with the U.S. military is equally important. Very recently, we see that there's an extension of military service from 4 months to 1 year. And you need time to prepare those young recruits into having combat capabilities.
Kharis, Chen spoke about U.S. arms to Taiwan, and there currently is a delay, and this comes top of the mind of people in Taiwan and also Taiwanese American voters. Mm-hmm. How do you feel the administration will address this? Should a new administration come in, or do you feel if Trump becomes president, there would be a change in terms of arms deliveries?
Well, I think we should clarify that the delay here is not equally across all of the different arms packages that have been sold to Taiwan. It's predominantly the F-16s package. And there's some Stingers and Harpoons that have been slightly delayed as well. But the backlog is nowhere near what's often reported, which is in the range of 20 billion. It's actually under 10 billion in terms of a formal delay of delivery. And then I actually think this administration has made speeding up the delivery top priority in the relationship. I think there's a lot of man hours going into this problem in the Pentagon and over at the National Security Council. And I would expect that to continue under an administration of either of the current presidential candidates.
Fang-yu, do you feel that Taiwan's doing enough in terms of, we talked earlier about Trump, you talked about how he asked more from allies. Do you feel that Taiwan is showing that it's doing enough, as we saw from Chen and also from Wang, where they spoke about Taiwan's beefing up its own self-defense?
Well, Taiwan's defense budget has increased from its GDP ratio from 2% to 2.5% in the last 5-6 years. And 2.5% is significantly higher than the average of NATO countries. So the NATO countries spend about 2%. And only 5 or 6 of the 32 NATO countries have the higher ratio than Taiwan. So Taiwan has already just spend a lot of efforts to raise this defense budget. That is for sure. And also, Taiwan has to do more to speed up all of the military reforms. So, for example, we have already resumed our conscription system. However, I think Taiwan should do more to increase the quality of the training programs. And the U.S. is now having a public program. I mean, we can see all of the news publicly that the U.S. and Taiwan has these cooperations. That is not, we haven't seen this before because everything is on the table. But now we have the very positive and very public views on how the U.S. and Taiwan is now cooperating on this.
Kharis, let me turn to you. The Hoover institutions in which you are a part of, and you have a leadership role there. How does Taiwan's commitment compare to the current PRC threat? Do you think Taiwan's doing enough?
No, I think Taiwan needs to do more. The threat has really escalated in recent years, and I think the overwhelming consensus, not just at my institution, but among China watchers in the security space in the U.S., is that Taiwan is lagging in its efforts to respond to the escalation in threat. That said, as someone who studies this issue pretty closely in Taiwan, I think there's some kind of built-in structural barriers to moving quickly on this issue, and the current government and the previous Tsai administration has tried to chip away at these issues, and so I do think things are moving in the right direction.
Kharis, how do you feel in terms of Taiwan working closer with whoever becomes the next president in terms of having China threat and with North Korea and all these different security issues that the U.S. is dealing with? What is the best approach for Taiwan?
The United States is also pretty stretched in its international commitments. The fact that there's an ongoing conflict in the Middle East, there's a significant conflict in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, and the United States is spending a lot of time and energy and some resources in both of those conflicts as well. And it means that a significant amount of U.S. military capability is perhaps not as present as we might like in the Western Pacific. And so these other conflicts around the world do have a kind of secondary impact on Taiwan's own security. And so it's worth it to our Taiwanese viewers, I think, to become more educated about what's happening in the rest of the world. Second, the United States, in my view, still has a compelling national interest in ensuring that peace is preserved across the Taiwan Strait, regardless of who the next president is. But it is not in the United States' interest to see Taiwan kind of push the envelope on symbolic issues like changing the name of the country or the constitution or the flag or those kinds of things. And it's also worth noting that the potential for political uncertainty in Beijing is not zero either. There's some challenges that Xi Jinping faces now that are as large as any that he's faced over his more than 10 years in power, in particular the Chinese economy. So I think vigilance is the order of the day.